We welcome you all to our trainer connection this afternoon. Our title is Podcast. Turn it up, turn it off. It's an introduction to the world of podcasts. We hope that you get something from it that you didn't know, and are kind of excited about exploring the topic when we get done. Okay, we're going to ask you just a little question. How are you feeling after this weekend and having Monday off and coming back to work on a Tuesday that feels like a Monday? Use your annotate and tell us a little bit about how you're feeling today. Does everybody know where annotate is?
No.
There's somebody. It's up at the top where it says you're viewing April Brown's screen. Click on View Options, Annotate, and then Stamp over at the left, or mine is. And tell us how you're feeling today.
At least we're on the more happier side
Yeah,
of the
at least we're in the middle and happy, so we can do it. All
Are
right.
you playing along, Glenna?
I am. I'm stressed. We don't have a face for that today. So
At least we are kind of still smiling, Glenna.
unfortunately, that is how I roll most of the time, so I can adapt quickly.
Yes. So guys, another little on the fly moment that we're going to have this morning is we couldn't get our poll set up this morning with all of our technical difficulties before this started. So in our poll, we were going to ask a question. So I'll just have you in chat, or you can come off mute and tell me kind of where you fall. Our poll question was going to be like kind of where you are with podcasts. So you don't know what a podcast is. Have you listened to a few podcasts? You regularly listen to podcasts and you have a few favorites, or you listen to them regularly as well as you've even made your own podcasts. So kind of where do you fall on the podcast spectrum, I guess? Little to no knowledge, or you're like the podcast person, which I know we have one of those on here. So
we may have more than one. Okay, we got from listen to a few individual episodes, listen regularly and have favorites, regularly listen but have never made their own, listen to a few. I know what they are but don't generally listen to them. I know what it is. I've listened to a couple episodes, but they do not want to make a podcast. That's Kate, doesn't want to make one. I've listened to some, but not regularly. Little to no knowledge. Know about them, listen to a couple. Regularly listen, never have. Regularly, only listen to one. Awesome.
Okay, so we're kind of all over the place with that. I will personally let you know that until Glenna and I started doing this, I had not listened to podcasts either. And so this is like a learning along with you kind of experience for me. Or I've kind of taught myself a little bit more and learned more from putting this together. So that's where I'm at. Okay, so I guess, can you clear the annotate, Glenna?
How do I do that? See, we're learning.
I might be able to do it myself.
As we go.
I do the clear your drawings, the little trash can.
Oh, okay, there we go. I was like, where's the one that does all of them? Okay, there we go.
Awesome. I learned something new. We found a little video. It's short and kind of compact with just a brief overview of what a podcast is. So if you will listen to that for just a second, and we'll talk about it.
Let me know if you can't hear it.
So whether you landed on this video because someone suggested a podcast to you and you weren't quite sure what they were talking about, or you've heard about a ton of people starting podcasts and you want to know if that's something that you'd be into, whatever your reason, welcome. We'd love to help you understand what a podcast is and how they work. So what is a podcast? A podcast is essentially a series or collection of digital audio files that are made available for listening or downloading via the internet. So that could be a website, it could be a listening app, what have you. And so each individual audio file that is uploaded would be considered a podcast episode. And podcasts are typically hosted by a person that leads a conversation, that will tell stories, that may report on the news, and they are called a podcast host. A person who creates a podcast is called a podcaster. The best way to think of podcasting is kind of like the Netflix of audio. So you know how you can pick a show on Netflix and just watch the whole show or just watch a few episodes? Podcasting is very similar. You can pick a show and decide you want to listen to all the episodes they have available, or you can just listen to one or two of the episodes that they have available. The thing is, this is audio on your time. So how do podcasts work? Well, if you were to create a podcast, you'd upload audio, get a hosting site to make it available. And when you do that, your hosting site would create an RSS feed. And that just stands for Real Simple Syndication. All this is a page of raw data that holds all the information about your podcast. Its title, cover art, how many episodes, titled episodes, the whole shebang. So where can you listen to these things? Podcasts. You can listen to podcasts in a couple of different places. So there are podcast listening apps. We like to call some of them directories. Apple Podcasts is one such. Google Podcasts is another directory. But you can also listen to podcasts in a lot of music listening apps. So Spotify has made podcasts available in their app. Amazon. Stitcher is a podcast-specific app that you can listen to podcasts on. Some people even have their podcasts embedded on their website. So there are embedded players where you can listen to podcasts that aren't necessarily in a directory. And if you are a Buzzsprout user, we actually give you a podcast listening website all your own for your podcast. So people can listen there as well. So now that you know what a podcast is, if you're interested in starting a podcast, check this video out over here that's going to give you all the information that you need to know to start a podcast. We hope this video answered your questions about what a podcast is. As always, thanks for watching and keep podcasting.
Okay, did you learn anything new in that little video? Anything stick out to you or something you didn't know?
It's kind of fast. It was kind of fast. So we are going to go over a little bit more details on some of the things that she covered. So if you were like, oh my gosh, it was all too fast, then don't worry about that.
Yeah, it's a lot of information in a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And the audio on your time is what stuck out to me. You can download them and listen to them when you can, when you're in a place you can, or like that. I like that way you're in control. It's not like it comes on every night at 7 o'clock and you have to be right there.
So we're going to listen to podcasts, and she went over some of those on that video as well. I'm going to go over Androids because that's what I have as an Android. And so there's Podcast Player, which I actually downloaded onto my own phone to kind of explore some stuff. Google Podcasts, which she mentioned, and also Spotify. So if you already have a Spotify, if you listen to music on Spotify, you can also listen to podcasts on there too. So like I said, I downloaded Podcast Player onto my Android. It was free, and it has tons of podcasts to listen to. It goes by categories, or you can just search if you know a name of a podcast. It has little featured podcasts. So like maybe what most people are listening to right now, it'll kind of highlight the ones that a lot of people are watching. And so you can do anything from food or education or crime or anything like that. So you can just pick what you want and listen. And it was super easy. Like I said, free to download, and then you could just listen as soon as you got in there. So.
Okay, the iPhone apps. Now, my phone already had Apple Podcasts downloaded on it. So, of course, that was super easy just to click on it. But I also looked at others. There's Overcast, and it has smart filters that make it really easy for you to organize your playlist. Like if you have several different topics, several different podcasts you listen to, and it was loud, very clear. You know, you could understand what it was saying. It wasn't jumbled. But the search feature was difficult to use. It wasn't one of the easiest things. And there was no tutorials to tell you how to look for things. It is free, but you can get the premium account for $9.99 a year. And then there was Castro, and Castro keeps keeps track of the dates and how much of an episode you have listened to. So if you have to stop in the middle, you get cut off or whatever, you know where you were when you quit. And it's very easy to navigate. The only downfalls to that is it's iPhone only, and you must subscribe to Castro in order to use a lot of the features. It's free, but of course the premium is $18.99 a year. Pocket Cast is simple. It has a desktop version. You can make your own filters, determine how you want to filter your podcast. But if you listen to an episode, you have to subscribe to that podcast. So everything you listen to, you have to subscribe to. So that could get a little overbearing. And it does have a limited search feature. It is free, but the premium is 99 cents a month or $9.99 a year. Breaker is free. It allows you to get recommendations from friends. So if you and a friend are on Breaker and they listen to a podcast they think will just be right up your alley, they can recommend it to you. The downfall to that is anybody can recommend anything to you and anybody can follow you. So, I mean, people you don't know or, have contact with. So that was a downfall to that. Downcast is $2.99. It didn't say per month or per year, so I'm not sure. And there are Mac and iPad versions to Downcast, and it will sync all of your playlist across the iCloud. But it is very difficult to read. The print is so small, it was very difficult to read. But there's a lot to choose from. I mean, we could have gone on and on and on with these lists because there's so many things to choose from. So it depends on what you're looking for and how you want to use it.
Hey, somebody said in the chat that Google Podcast doesn't exist anymore, so I didn't
Oh,
I
wow.
didn't see that, but
Yeah, they discontinued it in April because that's where I used to listen to most of what I listened to. And so it has gone away. So I ended up switching to, there's an Android version of the Pocket Cast that I get Glenna looked at the
Mhm.
Mac version. That's what I ended up switching to. But unfortunately, yeah, Google Podcast just in April this year went away.
okay. Okay.
Question.
Well, I didn't try to download that one for my Android, so I guess that's why I didn't notice that that
Mhm.
one wasn't there. So
When you say it's free, do you mean the app is free and then you pay to use the app? Is that what you mean? Because I don't consider them free if you have to pay a premium or something.
Well, you pay for more things, like the basic version is free, but if you want it to do, the bells and whistles, you pay.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
and on the podcast player that I did for the Android, when I say free, I mean there was nothing in there that I found that you had to pay for.
Yeah.
Everything and I looked up different categories even too, and nothing I ever found had me wanting to pay for anything. So that one for me was completely free from what I found. So making your own podcast. So Glenna and I had neither one ever made our own podcast. So I had to look up some stuff, but from the video you kind of saw that she did kind of explain a little bit of stuff that you needed. So you definitely need either a computer. Some people I guess use a phone. To me it looks more complicated to use a phone. But you would need good set of headphones and or with a microphone. If you want to be one of those that does the podcast where you can actually see the people sitting there doing the podcast, then I would say that you would need some kind of a good camera or video recorder system too. So you need recording and editing software. There's a few listed there. Audacity and Adobe Audition were some of the recommended ones that I found. And those, like I said, they just do the recording and the editing. So for you to actually post it to a site for them to actually be able to go in and like me go into my Android and actually watch it, you would actually have to have a hosting platform as well to host it on. So there's a few, Buzzsprout and Podbean and Anchor were some of the recommended ones that I found. And those, like I said, would be where you would host them. And so that would be the way that people could actually search and find your podcast so that they could watch it. So you would need both recording and hosting platforms. Unless, I guess, you chose to do, like she said in the video, and you had a website and you just posted it to your website, then people wouldn't have to go find it. So you would probably, am I correct, Julie, and just having to have something to record it? And
if you want it to be able to people to subscribe to it, you'd want to put it in a platform so it makes that RSS feed, which is what all the different places you subscribe to uses to add it. So, but a lot of times if you have a website, there are plugins that will do that for you. Like you upload the MP3s and it'll publish the feed for you of podcasts.
okay, yeah. So if you were interested in making your own podcast, those are a few recommended sites for you to explore to see what your options would be with each one of those. And since we weren't like going into making one today, we didn't go like do a deep dive into those, but you do need to be aware that you would actually have to have both the recording and editing software as well as a hosting platform to do that.
Julie also added in chat a free Spotify, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, any questions before we move on? Okay, we're gonna do a little something fun, I think, next.
We're going to do a little something moving. So now I want you to think right here. You're getting ready to go live. In 5 minutes, you have to have information for a podcast. Now, we want you to use something in your house, something that it means something to you, something important to you. You're going to have to do a podcast about it. So I'm going to give you a minute to go get item, or you can pick up something on the fly if you think you can tell a little bit of something about it. So we got 1 minute and time starts now. All right, time is up. You've had your minute. Now I'm going to ask for volunteers to tell us what your item is that you're going to create your podcast on and why. Why is that your item? And I'm going to start. These are my keys. Without them today, I would have been in very big trouble. So they're a very important topic to always know where your keys are. That will be my podcast for the day. Who else wants to start?
I'll go next.
Okay.
I have, I guess this is the person that's helped me be the comeback kid. This is the person that has inspired me. I hope I don't start crying,
Oh,
but he's very important in my life. And I've been married to this man for 44 years, but this is my husband.
awesome.
Aw.
But when I feel like giving up, he's always there to give me that hand, extra hand.
Good. I am a sympathy crier, Robin, so I'm glad you didn't cry.
I didn't.
Who wants to be next?
I'll go next, but Robin, you're a hard person to follow. So but yours was great. Okay, so I'm gonna hold this up. So my podcast would be on traveling in an RV with your spouse and
I
lots
love
of
it.
tips and tricks for successful.
That would probably be
successful
really
journey.
fun. I would really like to hear your adventures with Sharon in the RV.
And now I have a title. Thank you, April.
Yes.
Anyone else like to share?
I'll go.
Okay.
And I like the architect Frank Lloyd Wright and the things he designed. I don't know if y'all familiar with him, but he designed houses as well as the furniture in the houses and the windows in the houses. And I also like to cross stitch. So my podcast would be on cross stitching a Frank Lloyd Wright window. It's the Tree of Life window from, it doesn't say on here which house that it's from. But anyway, in order to cross stitch to get started, you need the AIDA cloth, which I have. I have started my cross stitch. You can see I have some little part of it started, so it's the middle part, which is you have to have the pattern, which would look like this. Scissors, your DMC floss, which you would need separated into colors, and of course, a needle.
Well, thank you, Renee. I think you just did a podcast. Very nice. Anyone
We'll
else?
have to post your finished product once it's done on our credential page.
Anyone else like to share?
I just grabbed these for something that was nearby that I could do something on. This is my actual wedding bouquet. I used fake flowers and I got some serious flack from my parents for using the fake flowers. But my from 2007, I still have this lovely bouquet that is in my living room. So fake flowers aren't so bad.
There you go. I had fake flowers in my bouquet too from 1998, Julie. I still have them. Good idea.
All right, so I ran and I grabbed all, like, I have a big old crate of playbills from Broadway shows. And so I would probably do a podcast on something related to Broadway shows. Because I'm a little bit of a Broadway
You
nerd.
could be a
As a-
critique, like a review. Your
Yeah.
Christine's view on different Broadway shows.
But can I just tell you, so I have a daughter that lives in Taipei, and one of my favorite Broadway stars is actually in a show right now in Taipei, and she didn't even know, and I knew, and I bought her tickets, and she goes on Friday night, and it's going to be fabulous. I
Awesome.
wish I could teleport myself to Taiwan, but I can't. But I felt like, oh, I knew it, and she didn't.
I was getting excited because you held up stuff and you were like fanning them, like I would have done, like with all my books that I've read. So mine would be a book podcast, and I would review, and like I could be a book club person, you know.
Yeah.
What kind of books?
Usually like suspense, thriller, mystery, kind of drama. You know, comedy, love every once in a while, but you know, I'm like the true crime podcast people. You know.
Me too. Mhm. Anyone else like to share?
This is Teresa Montgomery.
Go ahead, Teresa.
Teresa?
I just picked up a budgeting journal because everybody has to know how to budget. It makes a world of difference in your life, in every aspect of your life. My husband does ministry with Compass Finances God's Way, and so does our daughter. And we found there's 2,350 scripture verses on managing your finances. And it is also the number one reason people go through divorce. So it is a really important topic for families.
I agree. Great.
Mhm.
I've done Dave Ramsey, so I agree. That's a good
Good
course.
topic.
Budgeting. Yes. Okay, Kate, I know you were going to share. Go ahead.
I was hoping I could squeak back by, but that's all right. So I pulled a few of my favorite fidgets because in order to sit in front of a screen for this long, I have to have something to do with my hands. So I could do a podcast on the many different ways you can find and use fidgets in your everyday environment.
Good.
Very
That
nice.
would be a great training topic too.
My friends always get on to me, Kate, for not being able to just sit and watch TV or watch a show because I always have to I work with plastic canvas. So they always say, just relax, just sit back. I said, this is how I relax.
That's exactly right. And that way I crochet when I watch TV, and then I have my other things that I do. Absolutely.
Yes, I agree. Anyone else want to share? Well, thank you all. That's great ideas and topics for podcasts we've shared with each other today.
Podcast. And kind of like going back to what I said earlier, you can find them just about on any topic that you could imagine. A lot of the platforms will let you download them, and you can watch them offline later if you want to save them and think they're a good fit for you. And they have several different styles, so you can find one-on-one podcasts, just talks where somebody is just talking just by themselves, or you could have like interview style. And they do round tables. Some of them are kind of like the story platform where somebody's just telling you a story about something. So there's several different styles. So kind of whatever fits whatever you like. So can anybody think of any cons there might be with podcasts? And you can come off mute or you can share in the chat.
I find them hard to listen to if I'm not doing something else like walking or on the treadmill, or if I'm driving a lot of times, instead of listening to music, I'll listen to them. But if maybe I'm too fidgety, if I'm just sitting, I totally lose interest.
I was the same way, Sharon, when I first started listening. So I can understand that. Anybody else think of any cons there might be with podcasts?
In the chat, we've got one person's opinion.
Okay.
And unsure of the credibility of the podcaster. Some information is hard to follow with audio only. Yes.
Okay. Yes. I know I mentioned I've been playing around with these podcasts lately, and my son was at home watching me listen to them and and I said, sometimes it's hard because it's hard for me. I'm like Sharon, it's hard for me just to sit and listen and I don't have anything to watch. And he was telling me, oh, Mom, but you need to listen to the podcast where you can see them too. I watched, a lot of these. He's a sports guy, so he was telling me about the sports podcast he was listening to, but you can see the people on there talking, and he's like, it keeps you more interested that way, And so yeah, some of them do have like where you can see the video of them making the podcast. So but correct, whoever in the chat said the information may not be accurate. So that's one thing you need to be mindful of, is if you're looking for something for like real serious information, you just have to make sure that you kind of consider the source, or maybe even check the source. So because a lot of times podcasts are, like you said, they're just people's opinions. So you can take that or leave it,
Renee added in the chat also that the information may be updated in the future. It may change. So that's true.
Right. Kind of like our information that we didn't know that the Google podcast was not here anymore. So stuff changes really fast. So.
Okay. The do's and don'ts of podcasting. An important do is to have a topic, know what you're going to be talking about, and stay focused on it. You don't want to veer off of it. You know how easy it is to get lost in side conversations and to lose what you are actually, the point you're trying to get across. I would even suggest having a friend listen to it and give you feedback. If you have a friend that's, just very honest, that don't care to hurt your feelings if need be, just create a practice episode and let them listen and give you feedback. Now, as we were planning for this, I asked a lot of people about podcasts and how they liked them, if they listened to them. So I learned from one of my friends a very important don't to podcasting. She subscribes to several. She was telling me, it was more than 10 that she subscribes to. So each week an episode comes out, and she listens to them while she drives mostly. And she was on her way to work, and she was listening, it was right at that tense point of the story. So she was just listening with everything, got there, jumped out, goes in, comes back out, and her car's gone. She's looking around, and it had rolled. She hadn't even put it in park and turned it off. It had rolled down the driveway into a culvert. She had to call a wrecker to get the car out of the culvert. So that is a big don't do. Don't get so involved in your podcast that you forget what you're doing. And also, don't add a bunch of information that doesn't have anything to do with your topic. And don't forget to edit. Get rid of pauses or a lot of wells or ums or You all hear people when they don't know what to say, I guess, and they're trying to think of something like. And also extended silences, especially if there's more than one person and you ask a question and it takes a long time for them to answer. And you can also get rid of awkward parts, like if you're stumbling on what you're saying. And of course, if you slip up and use a bad word, you can edit that as well. So those are the do's and don'ts. Did anybody else have any do or don't to add? I've read that editing is very important, and to make sure you have water handy, because a dry mouth sounds weird, apparently.
I feel like I read too, Glenna, that on some of those softwares that you could edit them, and they would take the that out of it for you. So that would definitely be something I need, because I'm kind of bad about that.
I agree. I would need that as well.
Okay, so we came up with a list of some examples of podcasts. Now, these are just a very short list. There are tons. And so we kind of tried to come up with stuff that would relate to trainers, credentialed trainers, and education. So Out of Ratio with Bertelston Education, and Creative Training Techniques from the Bob Pike Group. And several of these, we've actually had these trainers come on Trainers Institute. So if you went to Trainers Institute at the beginning of May, then you may have written some of these down and maybe had a chance to listen to a few of them. Self-Care for Educators with Dr. Tina and Bugren. I don't know if that's correctly pronounced, but that's what I'm going to give it a try. Train Like You Listen. That's from Endurance Learning. the Early Childhood Nerd, and the Everything ECE podcast. So some of these are, 45 minutes to an hour long. The creative training techniques from the Bob Pike group, I listened to a few of those. Those are usually pretty short and sweet little training tips to use in your trainings, and they're usually around 5 minutes long. So if you're kind of like me and you have a hard time listening to them for a long time, then that's probably something that you could just grab something real quick. And the self-care for educators was also they had some quick stuff on there too as well. So does anybody want to share any of their favorite podcasts if you're a podcast listener? And they don't have to be early childhood or trainer related. If you have like just something you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and you want to share it, you can do that as well.
If you want to gain emotional intelligence, Dr. John Deloney, he's one of the Ramsey Network people, but he literally does counseling with people twice a week, like on the podcast. And so he actually works through issues with people, and you can learn a lot just by listening to other people work on their issues with him. So I like that one. And it is available as a podcast, which is the video podcast. You can subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and it comes out Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
I listen to the Daily, which is a podcast the New York Times puts out. I don't know, it's not like these kinds of educational things per se, but usually they do like some topic that's happening in the world today, or they've done like different parts of the New York Times, especially like during COVID. That's when I listened to it a lot. They would have like recipes and how to do those kinds of things. So it's just like a general item kind of topic thing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing.
Penny shared Bob and Sherry and L Comedy in chat.
Okay. I saw a few comedy ones that I thought, well, I might be able to listen to that if it was funny and it kept me laughing all day. So might try that. Hey, thank you all for sharing.
Okay. And now we are to the challenging part of today's Trainer Connection. Now that you have learned a little bit about podcasts, you've got some to-do tips, to not do tips, and where you can find them, where you can listen to them, where you can download them. So our challenge to you is to listen to at least one podcast this week. It doesn't have to be early childhood. It can be something that interests you. But give it a try and see. You may find your new favorite hobby. So we challenge each of you to listen to one podcast this week.
Okay. So we're going to share a few upcoming things before we end today. And so we have the Trainer Summer Camp. You may have got an email about this or seen it on our Facebook page. So the Trainer Summer Camp is Saturday, July the 13th, and it's in Georgetown. You can see on the screen that we have 3 different sessions. So Julie, our training coach Julie here, is going to do one on adventures in artificial intelligence. Then we have another group that's going to do the CELT group. If you were at Trainers Institute, they've done presentations on the last few years. And so they're going to do one on adventures in play. And then in the afternoon, we're going to do a session on navigating new training techniques. That's going to be done by the training coaches. Registration is open now, and you can use the link there or use the QR code to get registration. And it's going to be $25, which will include lunch. And then you'll get 5 How to Train Adult hours. So look for that in your email. If you should have all got it from your training coach at some point. If they haven't sent it out yet, I'm sure they're soon going to send it, because I've just sent mine today. So, and then you can click on the link or use the QR code to register. And like I said, it's $25 for 5 hours, and that does include lunch. So anybody have any questions about that? It's in Georgetown. It will be face-to-face. It will not be online. Okay. And also coming up, and the next Trainer Connection, which is in July, will be Tuesday, July 23rd at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time. And it is scaffolding training, create content that reaches everyone. You can register with that QR code right there. You will also be receiving those through email at a later date from your training coaches as well for you to register. We kind of like to send them a little bit closer, but some of them may go ahead and send them out and then resend them out again. But you can go ahead and register for that if you're interested. I believe Julie and Candace will be the training coaches hosting that session that day. So make sure you register for it. And I believe that is it. I know we're doing short and sweet today, and it is summertime, so we'll give you a little bit of extra time back for your day.